So I've been on a grind with the Greedon deck or deck list lately, just trying to come up with the best recipe and the most consistent recipe to get off the full effect of Greedon, and just the most optimal version of the deck. And oh my goodness, this deck needs so much help. Like, like this card right here, Bokusho. Bokusho's a really good card, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it's restricted under Limit Break is like, it's so detrimental to the deck. Because either you just have to eat up unnecessary damage in the early game, or you just were not given enough damage. You just weren't given enough damage when you do ride your first grade 3 turn, to whereas if you don't have certain cards in Soul besides Bokusho, you're just going to be swinging for a vanilla 13, which just, it just sucks so much. Like, this isn't a bad deck, but in comparison to like the better tier 1 decks in the meta, like it just needs like so much help. Like, it's like an uphill battle. But I'm going to show you guys the list that I came up with, just to mitigate not all of it, because there's some flaws that you just can't fix with the current cards, but most of its flaws. So you really just want to max out on Persona Ride. This is actually very important in the deck because of Greedon's secondary skill of you get to die at 7, and this isn't the you get to die at 7. This isn't because like you lack shield or anything like that. It gives you like, I guess like it gives you extra defense technically, yes, but this is for like 2 reasons. Number 1, you need counterblast. You have no counter charge. Number 2, you don't want your opponent to heal, so there are certain scenarios where you can lock them out from healing, or if you are just sitting at 6 damage, they cannot heal for the rest of the game unless it's an over trigger. And then we're playing 4-time Jared Dragon. The reason I'm maxing out on Jared Dragons versus Hysteria is I tried Hysteria. Hysteria is an awesome card, but the thing is, it has the same problem as Bokusho, where it is locked, except worse, because it's locked behind Limit Break 5, versus when Bokusho's ability to power up your Vanguard is only locked against Limit Break 4. So this is really only good during like a push turn or a Persona Ride turn that you just happen to be at 5 damage. But again, it's a good card. I can't feasibly run it when Time Jared Dragon is just good in almost every scenario when you see him, because it puts cards like Bokusho that you need in Soul, like Greedon, that you want to put in Soul if you can't afford to keep it for Persona Ride. And it's a 13k attacker, versus for this to be it's 33k without Persona Ride, or to be at when you're at 5 damage, or because if you're at less than 5 damage, just only hitting 21, which is okay. I would rather just keep it standing and try and stack triggers on it. This needs to be the first attack, because it counts standing rears. Why doesn't it count circles? I don't know, but that's just like Time Jared Dragon is just better on Persona Ride turns, just because it helps you better abuse Goomin, because Goomin is an excellent card in this deck. Like, you need Goomin in this deck just so your opponent guards of at least like every attack they're either taking damage or guarding with 2 or more cards, especially if they're PGing your Vanguard. It's 3 cards to PG, which is really nice. But you want to have a standing. You want to have 5 rear guards, so you can stack triggers on 1 rear at least if you get triggers. This deck is very trigger reliant. That's another thing as well. It's very trigger reliant. But that's it for the grade 3s. Onto the 2s. You're still maxing out your copies of Bokusho. It's an excellent card for the deck needs it. It's an excellent card for the deck. It's just the most freest way of it getting power-ups. But the more better / efficient way of gaining permanent power-ups during your turn is Crimson Expeller. Now, at first, I wasn't running Crimson Expeller. Like, I ran him and I didn't run him, and then I took him out and then I put him back in, just because I'm realizing how important he is on your first turn 3 that you need to put Crimson Expeller into your soul with Bokusho's ability or with Time Dragon's ability, just so you're not swinging for a vanilla 13 if you're not at 4 damage. So that's why you want to max out copies of this, not because of its ability of when it attacks a Vanguard Soul Charge, because the way this deck works, you want to hold all your cards until your turn 3, essentially, unless like committing a booster behind the Vanguard if they don't have Retire or a way of sniping it, just to try and guarantee early damage. But you really can't afford to block rears that you're just gonna suck into your soul by trying to do an early game rush. At least in my opinion. I have a lot of space here, so let me see if I can put this. Let's put that there. And then Bokusho's 4 Crimson Expellers. You really need to max out on this card. You really do need to use this card at least on your first grade 3 turn, and then in your second grade 3 turn. If you're still not at 4 damage, it's just crucial that you get this card into the soul to use it. And then I'm running 3 Mukas. And the reason I'm running 3 Mukas over 4 Mukas is just because it's counterintuitive to you getting your Vanguard's full effect. Number 1, number 2, second ability, it only works when you Persona Ride. Granted, you really do want to have as many Mukas on board when you do Persona Ride to just get the fat Vanguard. But it's just so heavy. The cost is so less too. Is just so heavy. It just makes it like, yeah, like you get a free card, but at the same time, like it's just so hard to get the 10 in soul for Greedon's ability. That's why I'm just putting, I feel like 3 is the correct number versus 4. I was running it at 4. There was just even at 3, there's just so many times where you see this card and it's kind of a dead card in your hand because you see too many of it and you can't feasibly take out that many cards out of your soul without hurting your Greedons that you have in soul that you would need, or your Bokusho or Greedon. And then for the last grade 2, you're playing 2 Violetta. I used to max out on Violetta, and then I realized it's just such a like mid to late game card when you're already set up or you already have the 10 in soul. It's extremely good in this deck, just to like, you know, it helps you not neg a resource, or it gives you a resource for your Vanguard's ability. But I wouldn't run it more at 2. I've never gotten more than 2 off, even when I was running it at max copies. So I feel like 2 is just a perfect number. You're gonna get it off maybe like mid to late game, maybe once, twice. So, anyways, on to the grade 1s. I am maxing out copies of Gungaram. Gungaram is just one of the best cards in this deck. Now I've watched like almost every deck profile on this deck, just because I wanted to see what everyone else's ideas were compared to mine, and see if I could, like, you know, make the best Greedon deck possible. And I do think, you know, this is at least to my preferences, this is the best version of the deck. But they're only using Gungaram for the soul charge. Nah, boy. There's so many times in the mid to late game where, like, not in terms that you have excess soul, but you have soul that you don't necessarily need, or, you know, you really just need that one more card. Gungaram gets you there, man. Soul Blast 3 to draw a card, it gets you there sometimes. It just gets you that extra resource. And, you know, you don't play any orders in this deck, so anything you draw, you can call it. It just gives you that extra resource to get off your Vanguard's ability in the mid to late stages of the game if needed. So that's why I max it out, just the soul charge and the, you know, the other ability to draw a card if you do have the excess to just put you a little bit more ahead or on even terms. Then you're maxing out on Goomans. At first, I was running Muka at 4, and then I wasn't running any Goomans in the main, because my theory was, oh, you know, you always just grab Gooman with the Muka, so you don't really need to run any more Goomans in the deck. But the problem was, with that, there was certain scenarios where I did not see Mookas and I needed the Gooman. So it's just better to max out on Gooman to always have. It's better to, you know, need it and not have it than have it and not need it. And almost every turn you need this. You need to have that guard restrict. You need to have the guard restrict. You need to make 3 attacks. Like if you're, it's okay. Like if it's your first grade 3 turn, like you can make 2 attacks, but you really need to, like, it's important that you make 3 attacks. So that's why I'm maxing out on the Goomans versus not. And then nothing, pretty much nothing to explain here, like 4 PGs. And I already explained why I'm not running the Hysteria. It's a good card. It's just, not that, like, it's just like too restrictive for me to play, for the deck to play comfortably. And then for the grade 2s, another card that I'm not running is Ashurda. The reason that I'm not running Ashurda, you could feasibly take out the extra Goomans if you feel like having 4 Mookas is fine and play Ashurda. And, or you could take out the Crimson Spellers if you feel like you don't need the Crimson Spellers. But, while it does fill up soul to help you if your Greedon plays, you know, instead of guarding with units, I would rather just have units to call. And there was just better units that I can call and give additional effects to my Vanguard versus Ashurda, or, you know, combo well with my Vanguard's ability like Violetta versus Ashurda. So that's the reason why I'm not playing that. And then, I want to play this card so bad, but why is it a Counterblast 2, man? Why couldn't it be a Counterblast 1? It's just, because in your general combos, you're using Muka and Gooman, or you're using Crimson Expeller and Gooman, or Crimson Expeller and Muka. So for your general combos to get your restanding Vanguard, you're using 2 Counterblasts, maybe 3 sometimes, but you're using 2 Counterblast every turn, and its cost is just so, for what it gets you, the cost is just too heavy. I would rather you know, just keep the Violettas versus this card. And its other ability to soul charge if you Persona Road is nice, but not necessarily needed. It's not guaranteed. Most of the time like half the time you get to 10 by your second grade 3 ride, but it really depends on the shape of your hand, because you can be at because the magic number is 8. The magic number of soul you need is 8, because you soul blast 2 for Greedon, and then you suck up 4, so you soul charge 4, and that gets you at exactly 10. So the magic number is 8. The problem is, a lot of times with Muka, is you gotta soul blast 2, and then you call 1. That takes out 3 cards out of your soul. And let's say like you were at 10 soul, that puts you at an uneven number of soul, that puts you at 7 soul. So you would need an extra soul charge on top of that, which is possible. If you, let's say you already do have the Gooman, you can just soul blast a 2 and call out a Jarret Dragon, or like if you need it, if like say like they popped your other Jarret Dragon, you need another attacker, you recall the Jarret Dragon, or the Gungan Ram. Like I said, there's combos, like if you really need to do it, you know, to sacrifice the extra power your Vanguard allots itself, you can Muka Gungan Ram draw, and that nets you 2 additional bodies off of 1 card. Oh, and then obviously the triggers. This is gonna be like another surprise, I guess, technically. You know, 1 over trigger, not surprising. Obviously you want the Vanguard centric over trigger, because you are attacking with your Vanguard twice every turn. 3 front. 8 crit. You do not need the Steam D-BT03 Dragons in this build, and all the playtesting that I've done against Bruce, Gravidia, even Lorinal, this never comes up. This never comes up. You do not need Steam D-BT03 Dragons if you cannot find them, or you need them for your other Dark States decks, which, like me, I have every Dark States deck. But you really don't need Steam D-BT03 Dragons. It's just there as an option, like 0.5% of the time that it maybe might come up, not even 0.5. And then obviously 4 heals. I've seen, now most people would run draws over the fronts, but the meta decks currently, just like Bruce and Bastion, they just hit so hard and so high scaling numbers, especially Bastion that has the guard restrict that you can't guard if grade 1s or higher on the rear guards of Quenlu. You really can't afford not to miss out on this shield. And in my opinion, this works out better in your combo, your main generic bread and butter combo over the draws. Because if you do check a draw trigger, you got to choose where to allot the power, versus if you check a front, because you know the general idea is you're gonna have 5 rears, you're gonna suck up 4, but you're gonna keep a Time Jared Dragon to stack triggers on. But if you check a front, it gives the 10k power to your Vanguard and the Time Jared Dragon, which is a 13/23 persona. So, like I said, you really need, it's really crucial to make the 3 attacks and to have the garter strict with Gooman, because there are times, like let's say, oh, they didn't check a trigger, defensive. They didn't check a defensive, and you happen to not check any triggers. This is just swinging a vanilla 13, but they don't have any intercepts, like a niche situation like that where you can just get in for free damage because you did Gooman, or other turns when it's swinging for like 23, which is just enough to hit. Versus like they're swinging 20, it's swinging 23 because you did stack a trigger or you did persona ride, which is just enough to hit that it becomes annoying to guard with 2 cards. Because then you're gonna have to throw out a 15 and a 5, or you're gonna throw out 2 15s. Or if you got a trigger, you throw out 2 5s. If you don't have an intercept, if they did check a defensive, like, oh, defensives just hurt so much in this deck. Heals and defensives are the enemy of Greedon. It just hurts so much in this deck. But we already know what the future support entails, which is it's better. It gives you multi-attack options. It gives you more draw to draw into your pieces. But yeah, this deck really does need help. If I were to put it in a tier, I would rate it probably like bottom tier 2 if I'm being nice. But honestly, it really is a tier 3 deck, just because you really do have to put everything into your standard Gooman play, and it's not going to guarantee you the win. It doesn't guarantee you the win. It doesn't guarantee pressure, just because you don't really do much until your turn 3. And when you do get to turn 3, you're just doing 3 attacks, 4 drive checks, and you're very dependent on your drive checks. And if you don't check anything, you're not really doing anything. I'm sorry to be so pessimistic. Like, I actually do love this deck. I love the idea of this deck, but it really does need a lot of help now. But like, comment down below what other decks you want to see in the future. I do have a Baxavra profile that I want to do next, and like a few other, like I have every deck. Like every deck eventually will have a profile on the channel. But again, like, you know, let's have a discussion. Like, tell me what you would run versus what I'm running, and why, your reasons why, you know. But that's pretty much it. See you guys later.